I think we want the things that bring meaning to our life. And when you have the health and the energy, then you are able to obtain those deeper meaning things.
Welcome to Ostracon, a podcast that translates fragments into the whole from which they came. All right, we're here with our next installment of the Someone You Know series, where we get to ask interesting questions of people that you may never otherwise have a chance to ask, and they decide whether or not they want to identify themselves at the end. Today we have an extraordinary health coach, and I am so excited to have this conversation and talk about what it is you do and all the things that you help people with, and how it is that we live with the strengths and the weaknesses of these bodies that we find ourselves in. So let me set the scene for you. We are kicked back on a floor mat in amid a lot of natural wood in a lodge type setting. Very peaceful. The sun's coming through the trees outside. We have a nice cup of coffee steaming in front of us, so apparently that's healthy enough anyway. And Ms. Health Coach, would you tell us what it is that you do?
Sure. So I help people to live their best life through dietary, mostly nutrition, and lifestyle modifications. So we're going to focus on all aspects of health: your physical health, your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being, your occupational health, what your social life looks like, and how all of these things kind of play off of each other, and just helping people to overcome illness and disease or fatigue or whatever ails them so that they can feel their best, have energy, do what they want to do and the purpose that they're created for.
You're a Pharm.D and have been practicing as such for how many years?
Since 2012.
But we also should say that we're not giving anybody any kind of advice in this program, and nobody should take anything that's in this program as medical advice.
Yes, should say that.
So, as I listen to what you're saying, diet, I figured you were going to say that. Exercise, sure. Medication management. But when you throw out the social aspect, the spiritual aspect, it sounds like you take a broad view on what impacts our health.
Definitely, because I think that everything does impact our health. Everything that you come in contact with in your environment in some way shapes your health. It influences one direction or the other, whether for better or for worse. But we are a product of our environment and kind of everything that plays into that to shape who we are and how our body's functioning.
You think that's a broader view than the average person takes?
I would say yes. I would say that probably when I kind of started this journey, I had more of an average view of health, of diet, exercise, maybe sleep, hydration. But then when you really start to dive in and learn how does the sun impact your hormone levels and things like that, it really does broaden your view.
I feel like for a lot of people there are threshold moments where it's like, I now realize that this relationship, this job, whatever, are causing me a great deal of anxiety, and now I can feel it affecting my health. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like you're saying by that point you're a long way down the road. Like we have to be more mindful about these things earlier.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's just our culture, kind of how we live today, is that people don't think about it until it's already affected them. They're not really thinking about it on the forefront. How is this going to affect me later or impact me later?
And so you're trying to change people's minds about that?
Yes.
How so?
So taking a holistic approach, when we start working together, we're going to start with diet. They're going to start to see some benefits. And then at some point, we're going to start talking about, okay, we've seen all this progress and change, and you might hit a plateau. Well, where is that coming from? And that's when you can start to pull in some of these other things of maybe your sleep quality. How well are you sleeping? How much are you sleeping? What are you doing before you go to bed? Are you setting yourself up for good sleep? What's your temperature like in your bedroom? Are you sleeping at 65 degrees, or are you sleeping at 75 or 80 degrees where it's not necessarily ideal? Looking at challenging your body with, I don't know if you've heard of hot and cold kind of therapy.
No.
Or maybe like cold plunges, where you'll do a cold plunge for 2 or 3 minutes to really test the body, so your body kind of like shocks the system and really starts cell rejuvenation. Things like that can really impact and make a difference, but you got to fix kind of the easy stuff first, which is the nutrition and the exercise and kind of those low-hanging fruit, if you will.
So let me ask you about two things that you mentioned there. One seems to be directed at the vulnerabilities of the body and sounds kind of fine-tuned, like, what's the temperature of the room that you're sleeping in? The average person might think, oh, that can't possibly matter. My body is made to sleep at any range of temperatures. But then you give what feels like the complete opposite end of the spectrum, like the cold plunge, something more extreme to test the limits, to force the body into an extreme situation that then it rejuvenates from. And most people, I feel like, would think, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. That can't possibly be good for me. So how are you sensitive to both the little things that make a difference and the bigger things that you can withstand, the things that are more than you can withstand than you thought you could?
Good question. I think there's a couple of different things you have to consider. So in the first example with sleeping, you spend a third of your life basically in your bedroom asleep. So you really want that to be like good quality time and rest for your body to turn over the cells, make good cells. This is when your body is really healing itself, is through sleep. And so there's been lots of studies on, different sleep cycles and what's ideal. And so there's ideal temperatures. People will argue there's different bed sheets that are ideal to sleep in, linens versus like a polyester material, things that are more natural. And so when you spend that much time of your life healing, you want to do that under ideal circumstances. Now, on the other side of things, challenging your body. I mean, if you never challenge your body, if you're kind of always comfortable, how are you going to grow? How would you expect to grow? But by doing those things that do challenge, think about like just exercise. You're breaking down that muscle so that it can regrow and repair itself and make itself better.
How is our perspective on both of those ends of the spectrum, the little things and the challenges, how is it affected by our consumer culture? For example, is there a gravity to what is easiest, which might be at odds both with changing the little things and challenging the extremes?
I would say what's easiest is comfortability. So you're going to do what's comfortable. You might do what's least expensive. So if you don't have the means to get the nice linen sheets that are cool and going to provide you that extra, or the grounding sheets with the silver in them, maybe you can't afford the hour of relaxation before bed where you're going to sit and read a book without kids, bothering you because you've got young kids and you're doing life on your own and you don't have anybody there to help you. So you put the kids to bed and then you crash in a stressed state of mind or stressed state of being. You don't have that relaxation or that downtime. That's going to affect your sleep too. So yes, I think culture drives how we're, hitting these different things. But in the same way, I think a consumer culture can drive it the other way because you can make a really good ad for a sauna or a cold plunge or, the grounding sheets, whatever it is, where it makes it look like if you do this one little thing, it's going to totally give you more energy in the morning and completely reverse your problem and everything is solved for you. And that's not the case either. But with the consumer culture, you can certainly make it look like that.
Is comfort at odds with our natural state? Like when you say about getting into a more natural environment in sometimes the way we do the small things, and then also challenging ourselves, have we gotten into kind of a rote way that, sometimes you feel so divorced from like where our food actually comes from, what it takes to get it, what it's like to survive in an immediate way? Definitely.
Yeah. I'd agree with all of that you said. I'm not sure what the question was in there. But absolutely, everything is immediate. It's so easy. We could sit here right now and we could order a meal and have it delivered to us if we wanted to. We wouldn't have to do anything except for touch a couple buttons on the phone. Versus if you think back to our ancestors, like they wanted to eat and they had to go and catch something, start a fire, cook it. Maybe not. Maybe they would eat some stuff raw, plants and things. But regardless, there's work and effort, physical effort in that. But it's also a much slower pace in a way where we're constantly doing something. There's always something on the schedule. We're running here, running there. Are we distracting ourselves? Is that what we're doing? We're just distracting?
To take off on that, it's not as though there isn't effort and work that is involved in the pushing of the button, because somebody's got to earn the money, somebody's got to buy the phone. I mean, all of those things in some sense are luxuries comparatively. But it's just that the work that we do to attain it is maybe nothing like the work our bodies were made naturally to undertake.
Yeah. And that's probably why people hundreds of years ago didn't have to take a cold plunge to maybe stimulate their bodies to create some new cells, because naturally they were challenging their bodies in these ways just with their everyday lives, things they're doing every day.
On the other hand, life expectancies are so much longer than they were before.
We also have a lot more medical knowledge, ability to treat acute infections and heart disease, and just the advancements in the medical world now are pretty incredible.
And engineering advancements that go along with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because, you read the news lately and you see spikes in cancer diagnoses among the young. On the other hand, our treatment of cancer is more effective than it's ever been. And you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like your likelihood of surviving continues to improve because of our knowledge and technology. But yet there's also what seems to be an increased occurrence. I don't know, maybe it's a diagnosis problem and it just simply wasn't previously diagnosed. But it's funny that those two things would go together, that you would get better at treating something that you also have to treat more often.
Yeah, definitely. Both of those things are true. Getting better at treating, but also the incidence is far greater, and in younger people as well. And not just with things, cancer. Alzheimer's has, I think, 4 times increased since 2015. Don't quote me on that, but dementia, things like that. Rapid ADHD and autism, it's now 1 in 34. But back, I don't know if when you were in high school, when we were in school, we might have 1 or 2 kids in the school. Now there's 1 in every classroom.
And you think that's an occurrence statistic, not a diagnosis statistic?
I do think that's an occurrence statistic.
And I mean, when you confront a statistic like that, it seems like the common sense reaction that people have is like, oh, well, there's got to be some kind of a root cause. Is that what you're tracking down?
So I 100% think that nutrition plays a part in it. I think that there are so many things, not just nutrition, so many things in our environment. Toxins. We live in like this toxic soup now with all of the plastics. 100 years ago, we didn't have all these plastics that we're eating and drinking out of now. Like the Teflon from the pans that you're cooking your food in, all of these pesticides and herbicides and things like that are getting sprayed onto our foods. They're all impacting your body, where you're bombarding the cells and everything. If you think about it, like, how do you prove something is harmful if it's in a tiny little amount? You can't really prove that that is causing a disease. But when you have a tiny amount from one thing, like your food, and a tiny amount from another thing, like your shampoo, and a tiny amount from another thing, like maybe your lotions or your deodorants or your cosmetics, and everything else, the water bottles that you're drinking out of, and maybe a little bit from the air that you're breathing, and all these things, a little bit, that are bombarding your bodies, that's going to build up. And then your body can't clear all that because it's just clogged up. And then on top of it, we're feeding ourselves food that it's been ultra processed. It's not natural to your body. So your body's getting these chemicals and dyes and preservatives that it doesn't really know what to do with. It's causing confusion in the body. It's getting all of these toxins, and your body just can't keep up and can't clear it, and it's causing dysfunction in the body. And so we just need to be more mindful about what can we control, what can we cut out. We live in this world, so you can't cut out everything or you're going to drive yourself crazy trying. But what are the big things that you can cut out? And food is a huge one that you can have some control over, to make it a little easier for your system to process these things and clear them. Not to scare anybody, but like, our bodies are created to clear these things. Like, that's the job of your liver. That's what it's designed to do. Your kidneys are designed to filter out these things. So our bodies are created and designed to handle these things, just not at the level that we're being exposed to them.
See, as I listen to you talk, it sounds on the one hand like, well, we're doing this to ourselves. I mean, this is the environment maybe that we're creating for ourselves. On the other hand, it feels like, yeah, but I can't, there's so little that I can do about what ends up in my food and my water and my products, that kind of stuff. I'm not making those. I mean, maybe somebody will listen to this and somebody is responsible for making those decisions, but most people are like, I'm not responsible for those decisions.
Definitely making headway in it, in some of the movements that we've been moving forward with over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, and just talking about it, making it known. I mean, think about like just the chemicals. There's 80,000 different chemicals that we use in the United States for our food, and 4,000 in Europe. There's so many things that are banned in other countries that are allowed here, and we're starting to make headway there of banning some of these things, eliminating the dyes from our foods.
So you're saying that people in number, if you build awareness around this issue, can make a change.
Building awareness to make the change, and for yourself and for your own families, you can make change. You can't eliminate everything, but you can definitely make impactful changes with your choices.
So you're saying there's enough food and products out there that with knowledge and judgment, you can improve your condition. There's enough options.
Yes.
Are those options equally accessible, or are they prohibitively expensive for some?
I would say that they are prohibitively expensive for some.
And so then that's another area.
And that's another issue. Yeah. It's a whole nother topic. I feel like we could go into like a whole nother, yeah.
I mean, is that another advocacy piece? Is that another place where aware people in numbers can make a difference?
I think so. I mean, look at like the number one food on food stamps is Coca-Cola that people are buying. Eliminate the Coca-Cola and instead have a healthier option, and educate. Like, some people still don't even understand that Diet Coke. They think Diet Coke because it's 0 calories. People don't understand the difference between, if I eat X number of calories per day, I'm going to lose weight, and that's the calorie deficit. Like, that's not how it works. You need 100 calories of, I'll say, broccoli is going to be way different to your body than 100 calories of M&Ms or some other French fries, whatever it is. So just giving like the healthier substitutes can make a huge impact.
Going back to this idea that maybe we're doing this to ourselves, but maybe there's a way out. although perhaps not equally accessible. I want to combine that with what you said earlier about a holistic view of health, including like the social and spiritual. Does that fall under the same heading? I mean, are we in a toxic soup there also? Can we get out of it with knowledge and judgment?
So I think, are we in a toxic soup as far as our culture goes, spiritual and emotional? Yes. I mean, look at our culture and what people are valuing. Like shopping is glorified, having a big house, having the fancy cars, the culture of how women are objectified and dressed, and men too.
We talked earlier about the effort that it takes for somebody to be able to push a button on a phone and get delivery. Mm-hmm. It's easy, but it's not easy. It's just that to run after that capability, it's sort of like hardwired to not be things that are necessarily healthy. Maybe like sitting at a desk for 10 hours a day, for example.
Right.
You know, is it kind of the same? I mean, it almost sounds like you're saying that a materialist culture is the type of thing that would cause you to run after material goods to the exclusion of caring for yourself.
Yeah. And I think you do need to just sit back and evaluate, and this is where that holistic aspect comes in, and spiritual aspect and emotional aspect. You need to evaluate where you are in your own life. Where do you want to be? So if you are being driven by your job, where it's controlling you, where you're sitting 10, 12, 14 hours, never getting up, barely going to the bathroom, maybe you drink water a little bit once a day, if you remember, and that number in your bank account is what's driving you, I would really encourage that person to sit back and say, you know, what are you living for, and what is your purpose? Is it to sit in front of a computer for 12 or 14 hours a day, or is there more to this life than that?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, we all have a certain amount of time, and it's like, how are you going to spend it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how are you influencing other people? How are you shaping and impacting and affecting other people's lives? What's your imprint or mark that you're going to leave?
And as a health coach, I mean, you address these topics, you know, not only because of how you might view them ethically or culturally or whatever. I mean, you're bringing this up because you think this changes people's quality of life in some kind of a measurable way.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Absolutely.
seen it.
Like happiness, stress levels, anxiety, depression.
Also numbers that are way up.
Yeah, suicide rates. Not that I've ever had anybody that at the point when they came and worked with me that they were suicidal, but definitely depression and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They even did a study in kids, just giving kids a sense of purpose with like giving them chores to do, and how that impacts depression in children.
It reduces it.
Yeah.
Why? How do you make that connection?
I think it gives them a sense of purpose. Instead of just having them watch somebody else's life through a screen, they're actually up doing things themselves. They can build confidence. They feel proud of themselves. They're getting rewarded for their efforts. Just building that skill set of just having like self-confidence and, hey, I can do this. So many kids now, I think their parents just do everything for them, and they're not able to, and good meaning parents, like, I want to help my kid to do this, but letting your, 8 or 9-year-old check out at a store on their own and just observing and seeing how they do, giving them that confidence to have that interaction, teaching them how to be social with other human beings. That's not a skill that kids have nowadays. But 20 years ago, we'd go down the corner store and buy candy or whatever.
I want to go back to something you said earlier. Is stress as bad as people say it is?
I think stress is probably worse than people say it is.
I mean, what does it do to you?
Think about it. Think about so it tears your body apart. You can see physical signs of stress when it's releasing these hormones, causing gray hair, wrinkled skin, cancer, heart disease. It's damaging to the cells. It's creating free radicals that your body is then basically, there's a floating cell out there that's charged, electrically charged, and it's going to cause damage to all the tissues and cells and everything else that's around it. So yeah, stress is terrible. Stress is also very hard to manage because you have to make big life changes that often people don't want to face because they're comfortable where they are, or they've convinced themselves in some way that this is what's best for them.
Comfortable, I guess, in quotes, because if you're absolutely stressed out, then you're not comfortable. But change is so fearful that maybe you think you are.
Yes. And also, some people like to live in a state of stress to hide from reality or hide from what actually is. So you can be a workaholic, and just like somebody is using alcohol to distract themselves from the feelings, or maybe like some underlying issues, people can work to distract themselves from dealing with those same issues or feelings.
It's an interesting observation. I heard somebody a couple of months ago say something to me that being lazy doesn't necessarily look like sitting on the couch. It could be that you're incredibly busy. You're just busy doing a bunch of things that are other than what you ought to be doing, or what maybe you don't want to be doing, although you should.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
I've never thought of it that way, but that is an interesting way to put it. I like it. Yeah. One thing I teach my clients is the list of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So what would make it a good day? What 3 things you have to accomplish to make it a good day for you?
Mm-hmm.
And write down those 3 most important things. And then you write down one thing that you don't want to do, and you do that thing. That's first. Before your other 3 things, whatever thing you don't want to do, you challenge yourself to do that thing first, and that's where growth comes.
Something you don't want to do but would be beneficial to do.
Yes. Yeah. So think of something that you've been putting off doing. That you're like, oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do that. I should do that.
Could be some kind of a chore that would give you peace of mind if it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, that you're going to do your push-ups and sit-ups if you don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm. But then once it's done, instead of your brain constantly revisiting that thought throughout the day 20 times, oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do that. I still need to do that. Now that's clear. That's created space in your brain, and you have clarity for whatever else you need to do that day. And you don't have to think about that thing. You don't have to spend another second on it because it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Versus you're going to think about it probably 100 times throughout the day, and then you're probably not going to do it. And then tomorrow you're going to think about it again and say, oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do that. And how much mental space is that taking up in your brain?
That point about mental space is an interesting one to me, because I feel like we're all talking to 100 people at any given moment. I mean, because of the way that we communicate digitally with one another now, it's like we're always in the middle of 100 conversations. The feeling of like, I have this thing to do, some people call it like deep work, to focus on this thing, to get it done, and then to have a deliverable that then frees you up to focus on something else. It feels more and more rare.
Yeah. I don't think our society or our culture, however you want to say it, we're not taught to operate that way, and it's not like how it would be like commonplace.
And yet it's demanded of us. So I want to go to a deeper level. I mean, this stuff that you're telling us is fascinating, but it makes me want to ask, what is this strange relationship that we have with our bodies? Because on the one hand, they're part of us. We're attached to them. Sometimes they work for us. It feels like we can do this. We feel good about what we can do or the things we achieve. Sometimes they work against us. You have in your mind what you want, what you wish. It's not possible. And you have to kind of wrestle yourself into submission. But yet, it's also you. It's also part of you that you're wrestling with.
Yeah. I think it goes back to the idea of comfortability. We want to be comfortable. And so to do that, you do what you know. You do what you've been exposed to before and what's kind of easy, quote unquote, easy for you. But in order to grow, you'll never grow if you stay there. And from the health aspect, as far as your bodies, again, if you're doing what's easy, you're never challenging your body, and the cells are just going to basically just die. They're going to just get lazy. You know, you're not challenging them to rebuild and regenerate and adapt.
But like, there are some people who maybe they're beyond the point of being able to put themselves through a rigorous challenge, like we were talking about earlier, like people suffering with a medical condition.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's completely adaptable to each person and what that looks like for them. So somebody who maybe is overweight or has a medical condition, they're not going to put themselves through that, but we're going to start there with what's challenging to them is going to be changing their diet, giving them a little physical activity, giving them some sunshine, because maybe they're used to being in the house all day. Maybe they're not in the practice of prayer or meditation or reflection in any way. And so even just doing like a journal prompt, a reflective journal prompt might be challenging because they're just not used to that type of work. Just starting where you are and every day making little progress towards where you want to be. The first thing I do with every client I work with or patient that I work with is we make a wellness vision, and I ask, where do you want to be in 6 months from now? Where do you see yourself? What does wellness mean to you? And it's an I am statement. I am energetic. I am stronger. I am spending my time outdoors with my kids, playing, not stressed about the work I didn't finish that's waiting for me inside the house. So whatever that I am statement is, that's where we start. And then we're going to take little steps each week to get there.
Do you think that most of us are at odds in one way or another with our body?
I guess I don't know what the majority would be. I would say probably yes. Because I think that pretty much every person would benefit from health coaching, myself included. Mm-hmm. You know? I coach other people on it, but that doesn't mean that I still don't have progress every day that I could be making. Because there's always somewhere to go towards. And then when you get there, there's still the next goal.
Does that ever look like the materialist pursuit?
Yeah, I guess it could.
Is that put an outer bounds on that pursuit? What I mean is, the things that you might want for your body. Mm-hmm. Like, is there ever a point where the desire for physical perfection is as damaging as the
Yes.
desire for material wealth?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be making an idol of your body.
Yeah.
Versus being at peace with where you are. And I think here's where a little bit of the spiritual can come into play. And I think that's where you talk about the balances, the holistic health. You can have a physical health. It has to balance with your emotional health, with your spiritual health, with your social health, with your occupational health, with your financial health, and all of those need to be in balance. And if one of them is up too high, then you're dipping somewhere else.
I feel like we're getting to my question about part of you is your body, and then also you're struggling with your body. It's kind of like, yes, we should strive to be healthy, mm-hmm. but nothing, not even the desire for health, can overwhelm this balance of these different attributes of the person.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who can only be so healthy. I mean, there are some people who they're going to have to be on medication. They're always going to be limited in mobility, for example, or you could think of 1,000 examples, and so they can't be held to an unreachable standard.
Right.
But yet, health has got to mean something for them. How does that work?
So, for example, let's say somebody has a condition where it's really impacting their daily living, their life. Maybe it's a condition that requires them to be in a wheelchair or unable to physically do something that they would really like to do. So I would say in those people, you have that. That's your baseline. That's like where you're going to be. You're not ever going to maybe achieve walking or anything like that. And you know that. And so there you need to work on the acceptance of that, but then redefining what is my purpose. Because your physical body is not defining your purpose. That doesn't make up who you are as a person or your identity. So I would say there, looking at redefining your purpose, who are you, what makes you who you are, and then balancing the other aspects of health around that.
As you talk about nature and the natural environment in which we live, it sounds like doing right by nature also might involve doing right by ourselves.
Yeah, I think that we were born into nature. We were born into a natural world. And the more we can connect with that, I don't even want to say the word healthier, but yes, healthier, but the more vibrant, fulfilled, purposeful life you have, because you have that connection. We all have like that natural connection to nature. Even if you say, I hate being outdoors and I hate the bugs and blah, 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 everybody is just going to be like that. You need that sunshine. There are things you're getting from that you can't get anywhere else.
So like taking vitamin D is not the same as being in the sun.
Yeah, you're never going to have all of the benefits of that natural sunshine. The red light, what it's doing to your circadian rhythm, how it's telling your body, release this hormone, in the morning to wake up, and release, the melatonin at night to fall asleep and get into that cycle. And the light, how it just helps your eyes and rejuvenates your skin. And yeah, you get the vitamin D, but there's lots of other benefits too. And not just the sun, but being outside, walking on, I don't know if you've heard of like grounding, just walking on barefoot ground outside, and the benefits that has.
Does it really?
To realign the energy in your body and how it interacts with the electrons in your body and how it grounds them and takes off the charge, I guess, from your body, makes it more neutral. That's why also, I think I mentioned earlier, like the grounding sheets that people sleep on.
Yeah.
It's the same principle, except they're using it with you plug in a grounding wire and sleep on it. All kinds of benefits that they, say that have with reducing inflammation, waking up feeling more refreshed, more energy.
So you feel like being in nature is essential?
Yes, I do. I think that you're going to have a sense of calm, a sense of peace. You're going to give yourself time to just breathe, relax in a way that you can't do just sitting on your couch. It's going to be different. It's going to be a different experience. So even for just 5 minutes, if you can just get outside for 5 minutes a day and breathe in the air and get the natural sunshine, it's going to make a difference.
But then I kind of want to explore the next level of connectivity, which is we talked about the healthiness of the food we eat, how processed it is, etc. It seems like if we make choices about where we get that food, how we treat that food, what we put in it, how we process it, if it's better for the environment, is it often better for us also? Do these things go hand in hand?
So I was actually just listening to your podcast about this the other day with sustainable agriculture and using a system designed to minimally process the food, and how by going back, it's going backwards because we've developed all these things and chemicals and stuff, and we're saying, oh, they're good, but by stripping those away and going back, it's actually like saving farmers tons of money too. And they're able to produce just as many crops, if not more, without the insecticides and pesticides. And absolutely, that would be better for our bodies because we're not putting that, poisonous stuff into our bodies that's are causing sickness. It's causing disease.
How processed is our food? And I mean, how much of your job is getting people to eat less processed food, or in this case, less, pesticide affected foods?
So processed foods. I mean, walk into any grocery store, watch any TV commercial. You've got fast food thrown in your face. At the checkout line, everything you see is processed food, candy and sugar and carbs. And I mean, walk into a grocery store, and how much of what you see looks like real food that came out of the ground?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Almost nothing, right? The produce section, you've got your chicken, your meat, your turkey, eggs, but almost nothing else. You've got all these frozen dinners that come prepared and prepackaged. You've got all the sugar, the bars, the cereals, the refined sugars, just literally in everything. So I would say 80% of my job is probably teaching people how to eat real food, real, whole, nutrient-dense food.
And that
came from the earth.
That's like what percentage of what's in a store? I mean, I know you don't have an exact number, but
I would guess probably 20%.
Yeah.
But it's learning how to cook too with those foods. I mean, like, people are like, well, I don't know what to eat. What do you eat if you take out all of this stuff? Well, it's about using all the vegetables. There's hundreds of different vegetables, and using them in different ways to create different flavor profiles, using the different herbs and spices that also all have purpose in our diet. Like, you can use herbs to treat so many things too. Like cinnamon for blood sugar has a great impact on reducing blood sugar. Turmeric for inflammation, things like that. All kinds of different herbs and spices. And you can get into a whole nother thing on how to treat disease with herbs. But that's not what I do. That's not my thing. But back to percentage of foods and what do you eat. So just making your plate half vegetables, a portion of meat, or if you're vegan, another method of protein, whether that's lentils or tofu or some other protein source. And a little bit of carb. So starchy vegetable or whatever your carb might be, but that's really should be the smaller part of your meal. And so just teaching people how to kind of reportion their food and what calories are coming from what sources. But we don't count calories. I don't do any calorie counting. Mm-hmm. We don't really limit portions either, because once you start eating whole foods, you're not hungry. You naturally start eating appropriate portions.
So, I mean, this is the other thing that is so interesting to me, because you would think like, well, a chef would teach you how to cook. But, and I guess they would.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're teaching people how to cook.
Not really. I'm giving them recipes. And they're cooking it.
Yeah.
I'll give them some tips and stuff. But, yeah.
I mean, it's just, it goes back to what you started off by saying, which is that this is such a holistic endeavor.
Yeah. It really does. Like, people, when they finish the program, it's pretty life-changing, and the skills that they learn.
Are these, are these skills that, I don't know, maybe we naturally learned before and just aren't set up for transmission at this point?
I think that you have to intentionally learn them. Maybe you've learned some of them before, like in a home ec class, cooking, cutting up vegetables, whatever. I don't think we ever really were taught how to eat whole food, eat natural food. I think we're taught, at least I was taught, calories made a difference. And so as long as you have a calorie deficit, that's how you lose weight. And that's really not it at all. Our food is so chemically designed to make you want to eat more that when you're eating like the processed foods, that's why we're overeating. It's designed to make you want to eat more.
Because it has no, it doesn't satiate.
Yes, it doesn't satiate. It doesn't have what your body needs. So your body's constantly craving to try to find its nutrients. Because it's like, I don't know, maybe I need calcium or I need zinc or I need magnesium, whatever it is. It's going to keep making you want to eat to try to find those things. But then on the other hand, you also have scientists working in a lab that it's literally their job to mix the perfect combination of sweet and salty to make you crave more and have that dopamine hit on your brain of, that was good, I want some more of that.
So we're being tricked chemically.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And this is something you said that I had never even thought of, that it's almost like food that lacks nutrients that you need. It almost sounds like you're saying automatically causes you to eat more because your body will continue to be hungry until it gets the needed nutrients.
Yeah, and that's why when you start feeding your body real food full of nutrients, you're naturally, like, we don't have to focus on portions because you're full. Your body got what it needed, and it's going to naturally send those signals to your brain and say, I'm satisfied.
I once got to watch a chef cooking. It was an eye-opening experience for me because he made a bunch of different things, but almost everything was butter, salt, and shallots. You know, if you've got a good, healthy, let's say organically raised, piece of meat, and you're cooking it in butter, salt, and shallots, is it bad because it's butter and salt?
No.
Or, I mean, is that really not the issue? It's not just the fats, it's all of the other stuff.
Yeah, so I think that fat got a bad name in like the 80s, and everybody went on a low-fat diet, and interestingly enough, we put everybody on cholesterol medications and wanting to reduce fat. And by no means I'm saying like I'm not saying stop taking your cholesterol medications or anything like that, but when we're reducing the fat in our diet, that's when we started to see dementia and Alzheimer's increase because your brain needs fat to function. So it's just about balancing the amount of fats and pairing your fats with a protein, if you're going to have a sugar, you want to eat your protein first and have it with a protein and fiber, and then you can have your sugar. That's where I think the old saying, like you can have dessert after you eat your dinner, comes from, because you're not just shocking your body with a bunch of sugar on an empty stomach, but it's going to help your body to process that. So it's the order of which we eat. Butter is not bad. I cook with butter or ghee or bacon fat. You save your bacon fat. What's really bad, the fats that are bad, is the trans fats. And even though they were, I guess, kind of made illegal in the United States, they're still in our foods. And if it's less than 1%, they don't have to put it on the label.
Are those
maybe it's less than 0.5%, something like that. They don't have to put it.
Are those naturally occurring fats?
No.
They're engineered?
They're engineered, yeah. Like your margarine. Think like margarine, Crisco. Hydrolyzed fat are the fats like your margarine and your Crisco, and the really bad fats that you want to stay away from.
We talked a little bit before about the relationship to the body and how it helps you, and then sometimes it can be a struggle. I want to ask the same question about medication, because you also coach people through their use of meds and how to make it effective and things.
Yeah.
And that also seems to me to be a double relationship. Like on the one hand, they might save your life. On the other hand, they can cause side effects, and a lot of people wish they didn't have to take them.
Yeah, I think medications absolutely have a place and a purpose. I mean, I'm a pharmacist, and there's obviously a reason I went into pharmacy and medicine. I think it's so cool how the pills can, interact with different things in our body and do what they do and cause the reactions that they do. And where I think the good in developing them, and hey, we're gonna, improve this disease. We're gonna, let's say like heart disease, we're gonna improve this disease because we know that blood pressure increases your risk of having a heart attack. So if we lower your blood pressure, we're gonna decrease your risk of having a heart attack. And so the intention is good there, behind having these medications and treating these symptoms. That's all good. But you also need to have it hand in hand with the lifestyle versus just taking a pill as a cover-up to the symptom and masking the symptom and never addressing the root cause. And then you get on a medication and your blood pressure might be normal, or your blood sugar, or whatever it is that you're taking it for, your cholesterol, whatever. And so your doctor's like, yeah, you're doing great. Well, the underlying disease is still there, that process in your body that's still making you sick. So little by little, you're feeling maybe sluggish, fatigue, maybe you've got some brain fog because your cells still aren't functioning at their best. They're not optimally functioning because you haven't addressed the root cause that made them go into dysfunction to begin with, that caused your blood pressure to go up. So your blood pressure was the warning sign to your body that your body can see that something is not functioning properly upstream. Does that make sense? And so you got to address that issue so that you can feel your best. Otherwise, if you change nothing, you're going to continue down this path of just becoming unhealthy, more unhealthy. And it's going to go to that same disease, that same dysfunction in the cells is going to go to other cells in your body. And maybe this time it's your pancreas. And then you end up with diabetes.
So it sounds like feeling well is not the same as being well.
Yes. Well, and feeling well, even on the medications, your symptoms might improve, but you still might not feel well. Mm-hmm. Because you're having now the fatigue or whatever the other side effects are of this medication. Muscle cramps, headaches, nausea, diarrhea, stomach issues. I mean, you've heard the commercials. The lists are very long.
Yeah, they say them real fast too.
So where medication has a place, if you address the root cause, you can also help, and you can get to a point where you don't need, depending on what you're treating with a medication, you may not need those medications. If you're treating something like blood pressure, like diabetes, like even arthritis or some autoimmune conditions, if you heal that underlying root cause, you can get to a place where you may not need the medications for your symptoms. Also, on those same lines, I want to speak to medication in like an acute sense. Acute illness where you have like infection or like you need emergency medicine. I mean, those treatments in those cases, that's life-saving. So I think the advancements, like where we went from was we started, acute medicine and life-saving measures, and we got to what else can we do with this? And you keep developing and you get to the point where you're treating diseases, and it's so much easier to say, here, take this pill every day, and it's going to prevent you from this effect down the road, versus do these lifestyle changes to prevent that same effect down the road. It's a lot easier. It's an easier sell to take a pill than to make the changes, because changes is hard. And I think that's exactly what the coach does, is coach you through making those changes.
I'm surprised as to how many times the word easy has come up in our conversation today. Not one I thought we would say very much.
I didn't even notice how many times I said it, I guess.
Well, it's surprising to me how many times it seems like the easiest way is not necessarily the healthiest way.
It's definitely not.
Why? I mean, maybe this question is bigger than any of us, but I mean, why would that be? Like, sometimes I feel as though it would be more fair to live in a world where what was easy was also good. And yet, like, oftentimes that's not the case.
There's so many ways this could go. So many different directions. So you could go down the path of spiritual and creation and the fall. We live in a broken world, so it's not going to be easy. This world wasn't meant to be easy. It's always going to be a challenge to do what's right, maybe, what's good, what's healthy. You can take it a whole nother direction and talk about the powers, or I guess like the institutions that are really driving this, like the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry.
How do you mean that?
Well, think about how many, I mean, I worked at a pharmacy. We filled 22,000 prescriptions a week out of one chain of pharmacies.
So what you're saying...
And that was just the maintenance medications for all those chain stores. 22,000 a week. And that's one chain of pharmacy. And there's all the different chains of pharmacies. Like, how many medications are in society that people are taking? I actually don't know that stat, but I would be willing to bet, like, if you said how many prescriptions does the average person take, it's probably 5 or 6.
So a lot more than some people might think.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people upwards of 30 prescriptions that they're taking every day. And then I have some people, some people are on none. They're like, I've never taken anything in my life. Making and selling processed, prepackaged, sugary foods. They're going to keep making us sick, so we need that pharmaceutical intervention.
Do you think those things are intentionally related? Or could it be that they're just economically incentivized? Like, if I can cheaply make a food, quote unquote, that people will buy a lot of, maybe precisely because it's unhealthy, then that becomes an economically viable, profitable pathway. And then, if that creates a health disparity that can be treated by medication, then that also becomes an economically viable pathway, and it's just kind of like a feedback loop. Or do you think that there's more intent to it?
I think there's more intent to it.
When you work with people who want help with their health, and they want to be healthier, they want to be stronger, I don't know, they want to look better, they want to lose weight, what is it that you think they want? Is it just the list of things that I named and others like them? Or is there something behind them that they want?
I think it's what's behind them that they want. I think those are the easy ways to verbalize it. I want to be energetic. I want to not have to buy new clothes, or I do want to lose weight. But I think what's behind it is, what can I do when I have that? Will I have more confidence to maybe go for a job that I didn't have the confidence to go for before because I feel better in this body? Do I have the energy to play with my kids after work instead of coming home and sitting on the couch and vegging out and watching TV? While my kids, I tell them to go away and go play, I think we want the things that bring meaning to our life. And when you have the health and the energy, and maybe your brain fog is gone, and the fatigue is gone, and you're feeling great, then you are able to obtain those deeper meaning things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's astute. I mean, but nobody comes to you and says, I want to have more quality time with my kids.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what they really want, for example.
Yeah. Or patience with them. Maybe they don't even realize, like, I'm stressed out, so I'm yelling at my kids for things that maybe they don't deserve to be yelled at. They're just being kids. But because I just got home from a long day at work, I'm at the end of my rope, I'm irritable, I haven't eaten yet, my kid comes to me and says, Mommy, look what I did today. And we either ignore them, or maybe they accidentally spill something and we snap at them. But they're just a kid, being a kid. But if you come at that from a place of calm, of knowing what's really important in this life, if you have a sense of peace about who you are and what matters to you, when your kid comes to you at the end of the day, and maybe you have worked a day, maybe you are a little tired, but you're fueling your body right, so you have the extra energy, you are exercising, so again, you have that extra energy, and focus and mental clarity. When your kid comes to you, you're able to say, yeah, let's go outside and ride a bike or go for a walk in the park or whatever it is. And now you have that different kind of connection with your kid, and you don't even realize it until you're 6 months down the road and you've finished the program and you say, I can't believe the difference. I'm playing with my kids more. I'm involved. I actually get to see what their life is like,
Mm-hmm. What about for older people maybe, or people who don't have kids?
I would say, like, for older people, maybe you have like grandkids or something like that, and it could be that, but it could also be like a hobby that you once enjoyed that you thought, oh, I could never get back into doing that. Maybe it's like as simple as like gardening, or you want to go for a walk. Maybe you're somebody who used to enjoy biking, or maybe even crocheting or building puzzles or connecting with other people your age, playing cards or whatever it is that you want to do, and then you can't do it because you're not well enough to go out and do those things anymore. But you can get back to that point.
So the reasons behind the reasons would be like doing things that bring you joy.
Yeah.
Having time and ability to maintain relationships.
And creating that time, which often means you have to say no to something else in your life. So you're having to like evaluate your life and say, how is this thing that I'm putting so much time and effort really serving me? Do I need to be doing this thing? Or is this something that maybe I need to put on the back burner for now so that I can focus on something else that really does matter?
So you give me a lot of questions. I mean, when we talk about the reasons behind the reasons, I mean, is that just a desire for happiness?
Partially. I'd say everybody has a desire for happiness, but I also don't think that those things alone bring you happiness. Which goes back to our purpose in this life. My view on it is that you have to have the connection with the Creator to really fulfill that. And if you don't have that connection, everything else is kind of fleeting.
It sounds like you're describing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're describing concentric circles. It's like, I would like to feel better, for example. But you could never feel good enough to be like, well, that's it. I just feel great, and now I'm utterly fulfilled. It's not really that you want to feel better. I mean, that doesn't get you all the way there. But you feel better, then you maybe are able to have more experiences that are personally meaningful to you. And it's like, okay, well, then there's a reason behind that reason. But then having these experiences, I mean, maybe that never gets you all the way there because every experience comes to an end and everybody grows up and, as they say, no one gets out of here alive. So then it's like, what's what's the circle within that circle? What is it that makes the experience meaningful? I mean, is that the thing that we want?
Is that the thing that's the driving force in everybody's life? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I think if I knew the answer to that question, I might not be sitting here on the floor doing a podcast. I don't know.
I mean,
that's
how many people do you think are mindful of that when they come to someone in your position? I mean, are people uniformly at the first level, like, I just want to feel good?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they like, well, I think this is going to get me to something else that's really important to me?
In my experience, I would say the people that I have worked with have uniformly been at that first level.
Just want to feel good.
I just want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sick of this. I want to feel better. I need to make a change. They're at a point where they're like, I need to make a change in my life. I got to do something.
Is it possible that I don't want to be ridiculous, but is it possible that the thing behind the thing, you know, the center of all of these circles, gives you that peripheral desire as a route in? I mean, why do we want to feel good? Because almost everybody does.
Mm-hmm. I can't think of one person that's like, I want to feel like crap today. I just want to wake up feeling like crap today.
We want quality of life.
Everybody wants quality of life, yeah. I think we all are aware that you only have one life. Nobody wants to waste their life. So you want to do what brings purpose and meaning to your life. And so everybody, I think, is searching for what that is.
Do you find that do you call them patients? Do you call them clients? What do you call them?
Clients, patients. Yeah. I actually mix the two because I'm so used to, like, from the pharmacy world, we call them patients, but most health coaches refer to them to people that you work with as clients. So it's hard for me to make that switch because with the pharmacy world, I use patients.
Okay. So do you find that when your clients are reoriented from just, I need to make a change, to these are the things integral to who I am that are maybe within reach as a result of that change, is that a turning point in their development?
I've seen it. I would say fairly. I have not seen that in every client I have worked with. But those that do, you can tell that it does skyrocket their wellness, because it's like, then they move from just the food. Like, a lot of people come in, I just want the food aspect, you know? Like, we're going to approach this holistically, but really, like, we're focusing on the food. But then you have some people that are, you know, well, what about this? What about this? What about the sleep? What about the stress? What about, once I start talking about those other aspects, they are focusing more on those rather than the actual nutrition, which is what they came in wanting to learn.
Have you ever had an experience where a client of yours started to make progress, and then earlier in this conversation you used the word idle? It ended up in a feedback loop, just idolizing health, as opposed to what else might be attained through health?
Yeah, no, I haven't had that yet with a client.
What do you think you would do if you did?
I think I would have to refocus on, okay, let's go back to, like, your wellness vision, why you came here. Let's talk about where you are now. And then let's refocus on what is important to you.
Yeah.
And why are we here?
Do you constantly...
You might have to, like, even too, depending on, I guess, the severity of it, like, just call it out. Just say, hey, there is a point where it is unhealthy to focus this much on one thing.
Do we constantly need to reevaluate that vision?
Yes. I think because you're going to, at the end of your, however long it takes you, some people 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, when you're at that vision, okay, now what does this look like to you? And I think that's where you go into the next circle.
What do you think happiness is?
What do I think happiness is? I think happiness is an emotion and a feeling that you get from experiences that are positive or maybe offer encouragement. I would say it is different than joy. Joy comes from within regardless of circumstance, where happiness depends on your circumstance. And joy is from within, created by having that connection with our Creator. And that regardless of circumstance, you have peace and calm and are freed from any anxiety or trouble or worry or care. Whereas happiness is more circumstantially related or based.
You think it's the desire for happiness that then leads to the discovery of joy?
No. Because I think you can desire happiness. The desire for happiness, you want something, you get it, you're happy. You want something else, you get it, you're happy. You can do that 100 times and still not discover joy.
So
And-
joy, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you can have joy without having happiness.
So joy is a transcendent thing.
Yeah.
It is maybe not dependent on material circumstances.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, I mean, being embodied creatures, that like we're coming to talk about our physical health, you know, and the health of our mind, all tangible and or, you know, embodied things, if not physical, all of them. And but then that's a route to something transcendent.
Yeah. Well, where do you think your soul is in that?
What do you think?
Well, you've got your mind and you've got your body. And I think that third piece is your soul. So it's not just your mind and body. And that's the transcendent piece.
Do you think sometimes when people come to you and they're at that initial level of, I just want to feel good, I need to make a change, do you think they're looking to recover their sense of soul?
I think that whether they know it or not, the soul can drive that. They may not even believe in a soul or understand or have any concept of that, but that can drive it because you feel out of balance and feel in a sense of not like bodily feelings, but in a sense of awareness or sensing.
Or stated, if I'm understanding what you're saying, it's almost like this would be the type of out of balance that may manifest as a feeling of unhealthiness, but is more deeper just a feeling of like transience, being utterly occupied by the transient.
Yeah. That being out of balance in the transient or in your soul can lead to or manifest as physical unwellness.
So when you start with people thinking about vision,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it really a question of like, who do you think you are? What do you think you're supposed to do with your limited time? I mean, I realize that's not the way you ask the question, but is that the question you're really asking?
I think the vision question that I'm asking is far more surface level than that. Doesn't mean I'm not going to change it in the future though after this conversation. But I also think if you started off that way, to the average person that comes in they're not in any headspace to even begin to process
Yeah.
that kind of.
They're like, I thought I was coming to a health coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm not,
Yeah.
I was looking for a psychiatrist.
So I think staying on that first level, outer circle.
I mean, maybe the other thing too is you can't really do it with language. I mean, we're sitting here talking and I mean, I ask a lot of questions and that kind of stuff, but maybe that's not the way, maybe it's something you have to experience. Like when you actually feel a change in yourself, then you've got some tangible image, not just words. And so you almost have to start at the surface to get to the inside.
Yeah. You definitely can't start at the inside.
Here's the other question I wanted to ask you from what you were saying earlier about making choices, you said. Man, it is hard to make choices. And like you said, it's saying no. It'd be very difficult sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Why is it hard to make choices or say no or,
Yeah.
Comfortable is easy. It's what we want to say yes to. It's hard to make a change because your body, I think, instinctively rejects the unknown. It wants to do what's going to keep you safe. So whatever's familiar, it knows is safe.
I mean, there's maybe no place without risk, but a habit that has a relatively known risk might be more acceptable to an unknown path with an unknown risk, even if the risk might be lower.
Yeah. And even if you can be so educated on something and know all the reasons why you should choose one thing over another thing, and it doesn't matter. You're still going to do what's habit. Take smoking for an example. You can know all the stats about smoking and the risks for cancer and all the damage it does to your body and how it turns your lungs into tar, gives you a cough, makes your clothes stink, costs money. You can know all that. How many people know all that and still smoke because of the habit? And it's more than willpower to just be like, well, just quit. It's more than willpower.
Yeah, it takes more than that. Well,
And
plus there's a chemical addiction too.
And that's the same with food, though. There's a chemical addiction there too, especially with the sugar and the addictive properties of sugar.
When we were talking about, what people really want, there's another conflict came to mind. You can't really solve the problem of mortality. Like everybody will age, right? Everybody will die. So on the one hand, there's nothing you can do with food, exercise, or anything to prevent that. But I guess you could be healthier while you can.
And slow down the aging process. I mean, you can look at some 80 or 90-year-olds that are still out walking or running even, marathons. And they have all this energy and vitality in life. And yet there's some 50-year-olds that would not be able to walk down the driveway.
And that's more than...
And it's more than age.
It's more than genes, you're saying. I mean, that might play a role, but...
Yeah, genes play a role for sure. They can. But lifestyle plays a huge part as well.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as like every day you're going somewhere. You're being transformed. Your mind's being transformed. Your body's being transformed every day. You're either growing or becoming stronger or in some way more physically healthy, or you're doing the opposite and you're becoming unhealthy or aging, and you're going down one of these two paths, and every day your choices are either going to lead you down the unhealthy path or down the healthy path. And so what you want is just more days down the healthy path than the unhealthy path. So I'm not saying every single day has to be perfect, where you wake up and you eat 100% clean and you never have a morsel of chocolate or sugar or anything like that. And you're doing all the things where you wake up and you go outside and you get your morning sun for 15 minutes, then you do your yoga and your reading, and then you maybe take a sauna and go for a run, and like, that's not real, right? That's not real. Getting your 8 hours of sleep every single night. But if you have more days where you can choose healthier food over processed garbage, if you can eliminate the sugar, if you can get some exercise in during a week, that's far better than doing nothing and going down this unhealthy path that's surely going to lead you to disease and feeling tired and like crap.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the same place I was going with calling out this conflict. That it's a lens onto what we really want. Because if you can't solve the problem of time or mortality, and you don't really expect to, then the desire to be able to do more with what you have then is a signal towards that inner circle, the thing that is ultimately calling you to do anything of purpose or meaning. I mean, I just feel like you must touch that more than a lot of other people. Like, not a lot of people in their jobs have a chance to work with a person, maybe on what you might call surface level things, but that are directed towards a transcendent thing. I mean, it must be very rewarding when you see change.
Yeah.
Progress, I should say, rather than change, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I get so excited when I see change or progress.
What do you think it is in you that makes you feel excited when you see that in somebody else? I mean, is that your own sense of meaning and purpose, or what's going on?
Definitely gives me a sense of meaning and purpose, just wanting to help people. But I think it's also just a sense of just like, I think it validates my beliefs, my inner beliefs that this works, that I'm right, that there's more to this, that it's not just like, here's how we live and just, accepting society and our culture. I think it's validating to me to know that there is more to this than just the grind that I think our society makes us want to believe. Like, you grow up, you have kids, you get a job, you go to work, you come home, you cook dinner, you watch some TV together, maybe you do some shopping on your phone, shows up at your door, you go to bed and you repeat it the next day. Like, there is more to this life than this. And so when I see progress in people and I see change and I see the light bulb start to go off, it's just really rewarding and just validating that, like, we are called to more. We are designed for more. We were created for more. And this life is so much more meaningful than just that pattern that society has created for us to be normal. I don't even think it's normal. I mean, we've gone from a place of like, that was our life, to like, if you would have told me I'd be washing my hair with all natural shampoo and free of all the toxins and phthalates and parabens and all this other stuff, like, but it's just small changes over time that like really open your eyes and make you start to see like a little deeper.
So I mean, it's not just the food, it's the shampoo, it's everything. It's all our products.
Yeah, it's all the products. All the products. Cleaning products, makeup, skincare.
One word that came up a number of times today was energy. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody wants more energy. Mm-hmm. Why? And for what? I
mean, to do the things that bring meaning to your life. And when you're tired and you feel like crap, you can't do them. A lot of the stuff that we talked about here today with the environmental toxins and everything like that, the energy we get from the sun that goes into the soil, that the plants then use to produce our food that we consume. And so how our energy is coming from those plants, and when we're putting bad energy into the plants through pesticides and things like that and nutrient depleted soil, we're not getting that good energy in our bodies to fuel our bodies. And that's like putting bad gas in a car where you're just clogging up the engine and it's going to be clunky and not function at its best, versus when you have good clean energy or nice high octane fuel or gas in your car and everything runs real smooth and it's more efficient. Like, how much better do you feel? So I think that's the energy piece that people want, is just that good feeling that does not leave you feel drained at the end of the day.
Earlier, you said about how the body can heal, even with exposure to bad stuff. It can get better. Are you amazed at the body?
I am amazed. Every day I'm amazed.
Is that part of why you do this? And what is it that amazes you?
I love seeing, even though I've seen it over and over and over again, every time I see somebody's like cholesterol drop 60 or 70 points, I'm like, it's amazing. It's amazing that our body can just put what it needs into it, and it takes that and does what it's supposed to do. Just like think about all the tiny thousands of little chemical messengers. I don't know like how much biology and stuff like that you have, but when you see like pathways drawn out of how different drugs work and all the different receptors, hundreds and thousands of different receptors in the body, that are like little puzzle pieces, and you have to fit a molecule into that puzzle piece so that it gets the right message, so that it can do its job and function in the body. And how many hundreds of these different pathways are going on in our bodies, like that design to create something like that is our body, that keeps us alive and everything functions in harmony. Like, how does that not amaze you?
What does that awe tell you about who we are?
To me, it just, I think it verifies and solidifies my belief in a divine creator.
So even though, you were talking about biology, even though science tells us about how these things work, that doesn't answer for you the question of where they come from. Seems like quite the contrary.
I would say that would be a true statement, yeah.
So you're one who, it sounds like, seeing the science, finds that it's indicative of that transcendent. Because many people would say, well, I think it's opposed to it, because we can put it down in an equation.
I have yet to see it disproven.
When you say that you have an awe of the body and it suggests to you a transcendent source, does that tell you anything about your mission in caring for people's health, or why we should be healthy?
Does my relationship with God impact how I'm helping people?
Or why you ought to help them, or why it might make a difference to be healthier or to have a higher quality of life?
I think it goes back to like God calls us to take care of our body. So I want to help as many people do that as I can. I want people to feel healthy. And that's rewarding to me to see that change in them. Is that the most important thing? No.
You mean for your work?
For life. I would say for my work, my purpose in my work comes from, yes, helping people to be healthier and feel healthier in balancing all aspects of health that we talked about.
So, but you're saying that health is not the most important thing in life?
Yes. And that would be your relationship with Christ, would be the most important thing. Because, so my belief is that God created our bodies in his image. And he wants us, his desire is for us to take care of his creation, care for it, respect it. And that's where the health comes from. But we're not to worship it and make it an idol and make it consume or overtake the other areas of our life.
When you talk about all the good things that come from health, but then we also talk about the disparities in access to healthy things, like food and products and cost and things like that.
Yeah.
How do we beat, I realize this is the multi-million-dollar question, but how do we beat the health wealth
This is
disparity?
what I wanted to go back to, too. So I'm glad you... So I don't think we beat it alone in one day, sitting in a room talking about this. But I do think the more awareness we bring to it, we're moving in that direction. But if you're in that situation, what can you do? You can begin by just growing your own food. It does not take a lot. A couple of seeds in a bucket on your back porch to grow some basic vegetables: zucchini, cucumbers, tomatoes, carrots, onions. A few simple vegetables that you can grow, you have control over, and they're going to be organic. You can get some berries, things like that. And it doesn't have a lot of space. You can get those towers that you can stack up and, So just for a very small investment, growing your own food is one thing you can do that can make a big difference right off the bat. I think on a larger scale, like school systems, so my husband does the garden club for his school, and they have this big garden that the students are all involved in, caring for, weeding, planting. He teaches them how to can and sustainability. They've made like cauliflower crust pizzas and just all kinds of cool things. But they did 200 pounds of produce from that garden that they then put back into the school system and had for school lunches. Everyday fresh produce, which is giving the nutrients that our bodies need and are craving.
And it's also an educational opportunity for the kids.
Absolutely. And then he has the
after
science classes involved. They made a water irrigation system that comes up, runs through the ground and comes up so you don't have to water it every day, and had all the different classes involved and different things with it. So that's pretty cool.
So you're saying these are big problems, but they're problems that in communities we can approach.
Yep, there's things that we can do, that you can do as an individual, that can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. And things we can do together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you might not be able to afford the food that's organic or whatever, but you can plant your own garden, grow some of your own vegetables. You have the control to wake up in the morning, get some sunshine, and go for a 10-minute walk. That's free. You can meditate, you can pray, you can have some relaxation to reduce your stress. That's free. You can drink water.
Well, this has been a really enlightening conversation. I want to thank you again for your time.
Yeah, this was fun. This was good.
So, do you want to tell us who you are?
I think I'm going to keep it anonymous.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. This was great.